And we're going beyond the podium here with Mike Coffey, the representative for District 95 here in Illinois. Thanks for coming in, Mike.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's great to have you, Mike. We want to start with the fact, obviously, you filled the vacancy when Tim Butler retired.
Correct.
And you just won your first election in re-election. Mm-hmm. So what's on the agenda here now for you that you're wanting to bring to the table and put forth, and also thinking about here for the people in District 95?
Well, I think for me, after this election, very happy to be elected for the first time. And I stick to the bread and butter issues. I'm very basic. I think if you look at what happened in the election, people were talking about the price of groceries, the price of electricity, the price of gasoline. So I think as mid-state legislator, we need to stick to the bread and butter issues and figure out what are we going to do to bring down the cost of inflation? How are we going to make the lives of our constituents better here? So.
No, I think that's interesting. Sticking on that, coming off this election, there was a question on the ballot that you were on with it, and it was an advisory question. People, being the state of Illinois, asked residents, hey, should we raise taxes on people making more than $1 million for, obviously,
to reduce
property tax? Mm-hmm. That, got an overwhelming support of 60%. Mm-hmm. What do you think comes of that next?
Well, I think it's bad policy, and let me explain to you why. When they give you that, here, I wish I made $1 million. I bet you wish you made $1 million. And what they do is they pit people against each other. So they're saying that, hey, if we tax millionaires a 3% tax, we can lower everybody else's property taxes. But they base that on how many people make $1 million a year that are living here today. And what we've seen is an outward migration out of the state of Illinois with high earners. And it's causing us a lot of problems. So they do the calculations based on the people who made $1 million a year in the last tax season. But when they put that tax in, people will move. So the calculations don't work. What we really need to do is figure out, what are we spending on? We need to reduce our spending. And they never have that conversation. They always talk about revenue enhancements and raising taxes. The state of Illinois is taxed too much. I think our property taxes are the second highest in the country. We need to figure out how we need to quit spending so much money. And taxing millionaires is not going to solve our problem. We've got a spending problem, not a revenue problem.
Now, Mike, as a Republican, and Republicans in the minority in the House here in Illinois, but if you look at the national numbers from this past election just last week, Republicans, supporting President Trump, actually numbers gained here statewide. Does that change, you think, the Republican strategy in the House locally in Illinois, as far as leadership goes and what they're attacking?
Yeah, no, I think this election, many people talk about President Trump. I still think the election was about the economy. The election was that the Democratic Party's been tone deaf for too long. They weren't talking about the things that people at the grocery store were talking about. They kept telling you the economy was good, but when you went to the grocery store, your grocery bill doubled. When you went to get gasoline, you were spending $20 and $30 more to fill up your tank of gas. And that's what drove this thing. What they were saying, I think what the people were saying is these democratic policies, these progressive policies aren't working. And what we care about is how we pay for things for our children. And that's what we have to stick to. I hope the Republican Party understands that and realizes this is a mandate to do what the people want. How do we put more money in the pockets of our constituents? That's what we're here to do. When we get elected, we're elected to represent the people and do what's best for them. And if you stick to that, I think the Republican Party will be very successful, and we will continue to be successful if we keep that. If we start going out and doing different stuff instead of the basic issues, I think we'll then have problems. So I hope we've learned that lesson. I hope we do a good job. We've got a tremendous opportunity having, the presidency, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. We can make some great things happen, but, we've got to stick to what the people want.
Yeah, and here locally, one of the big hot button issues, again, another judge shutting down unconstitutional the assault weapons ban. That's something that Governor Pritzker just said the other day, too, is something he will continue to say that Illinois should fight for and challenge. Where do you land on this, and what do you think specifically should be the next step for this? Obviously, it passes a state law, but if it keeps getting shut down by the courts, at what point in time do you think this saga ends?
Well, that'll be up to the governor in that saga. But I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. We've got too many gun laws. What drives me crazy about these gun laws is you go to Shields to go buy a gun, and I've got a gun, but I'm not a big gun person. But you go there, and people in Illinois can't buy the gun, but they're selling guns that everyone around the state can. That's not what people are worried about. Again, That's the kind of stuff that the governor's worried about, but the people are worried about their paychecks and how, and that's what he needs to be working on. How do we reduce the tax burden in the state of Illinois? How do we reduce the groceries? How do we reduce gasoline? And quite honestly, here in the Midwest, in the MISO grid, how are we going to reduce our energy prices? Because that's going to be a big problem going forward, not guns.
Yeah. One of the things also that is unique to Illinois, especially in your District 95, if you go to your website and you look at the map at District 95, you may say to yourself, if you've never really looked before, like, why does it look like that? It's one of the unique things here in Illinois. You're a Springfield guy, born and raised. You're as Springfield as it gets, and yet you represent only a portion of Springfield.
Right.
You talk a little bit about gerrymandering. Is this an issue that you think you can actually address, make movement on, that is a party you think is important to focus on, or is this just kind of the way of life in Illinois as we see it?
Well, I think it's the way of life in Illinois, and it's the way of life in a lot of states, these gerrymandering districts. If you think my district looks funny, you should look at the other ones, because quite honestly, I've got one of the best districts in the whole state. For a Republican Party, what we need to do is we need to get the governor's office. And until we do that, I think that's our best chance of turning the map in, I think, 4 years we redo the map. We're going to have one. We're either going to have control of the House, the Senate, or the governor's office when the new maps come out. And I think the easiest path is to get the governor's office.
Yeah. Mike, I do want to bring up as well an issue that has been in the news recently. We were covering it as well. Qualified immunity. There's been a push to get Illinois to become the 5th state to quote unquote end qualified immunity or make adjustments to the law. If you don't know, that is obviously protection for police from being sued and things like that. Where do you stand on that? Is this something that you see Illinois as a path going down or not?
Well, my position on it is that, I want to keep qualified immunity for the police. I think what happens is bad things happen in every walk of life, and then people overreact. We can't get rid of qualified immunity for the police. The police are here to protect us. Now, are there individual police officers that do bad things at some time? Yes, there are, and that's terrible, and everybody thinks it's terrible. But getting rid of qualified immunity is not the answer. We've got to stand by our police. Everybody gets mad at certain times, but I know that I don't want to live in a world that doesn't have police. That we as a people decide that we're going to have a police force to protect us. We've put that together. So we've got to do everything we can to support those individuals. If something goes wrong, and I think when the times that things have gone wrong, we've seen that the system works. People are punished, people go to jail for it. So no, I'm not for getting rid of qualified immunity.
All right, I also want to ask, it's a topic that gets brought up a lot in this state. Former Governor Pat Quinn was talking about the other day, pension reform, Tier 2. What can be done about the pension issue here in the state of Illinois? And is there anything specific that you're, maybe looking to introduce or to talk about especially?
Well, we're just now starting to talk about it, so we're just starting to look at the bills and review all that. We're going to have to do something. The safe harbor law, in effect, that these pensions aren't meeting Social Security benefits, so there is going to have to be a change. Now, what that change is, how we pay for it, and all that, that's what's going to be discussed here in the next couple of weeks. I would expect we'll see that in the veto session. If so.
Yeah.
How we're going to do it yet, we don't know. I don't think we know, but we do have to do that. People are entitled to these pensions, and it's not the public's fault. It's not the pension people's fault. The government a long time ago spent the money and didn't fund the pensions. That's the politicians did that. And so now they're coming back and they're mad at the people that they promised a pension to. If we promise pensions to people, we need to keep those promises, and we need to fix this Tier 2 system.
Yeah. Another thing that the governor recently went on record as saying is that he would not be helping the federal government in the new transition as far as maybe the deportation of illegal immigrants. This is obviously a huge issue was for the election and the general election. What is your stance on what the governor's take is on that, as far as the federal government versus the states, and in doing things that may seem going against what the federal government's wanting to do?
Well, that's unfortunate. I think the governor should help the federal government. I mean, the election showed that was a huge issue for people, and quite honestly, it was a huge problem for the people in the state of Illinois. When you're spending $5 billion on illegals coming across the border because we were a sanctuary state, that is the expense of you, me, and the single moms out there that go to work every single day. If you're a single mom going to work every day and you got to pay for health insurance, you got to pay for all your kids' stuff, and then the governor's giving it away to people from other countries, that's just not fair. And we need to address that. That's created a huge problem. I hope that he will cooperate with the federal government. It's something that needs to be resolved. That doesn't mean, and people get too caught up in saying, oh, if you are for, stopping this illegal immigration, you hate people. That's not it. It's about what's fair and what's fair for the taxpayers. And quite honestly, the governor and everybody that's elected to office, we're elected to represent the people of the state of Illinois, the citizens of the state of Illinois, and we're supposed to be doing what's in their best interest, and not on a global political opinion on what you think should do. We're elected to represent the citizens of the United States of America, the citizens. I represent the citizens of the 95th District, and I should vote to do what's best for them. We raise taxes $1 billion, and that is to pay for that support for the illegal migrants coming across. That's just not fair to the taxpayers. It's not fair to the people who go to work every day and don't know, how they're going to pay their light bill, how they're going to pay their grocery bill, that we're giving money away that we've taxed them for. So it's something that really needs to be addressed, and it's a huge problem. And I hope the governor sees that based on the national trend that, people are against it. And we need to stop it. We need to correct it.
Yeah, Mike, lifelong Springfieldan,
Yeah.
Springfield resident. You represent a large portion of people here in the city of Springfield. Can I just ask personally?
Yeah.
What do you look for when you're driving around the streets of Springfield and you see growth, you see development? What are some of the things that you're really just excited about here as far as the city's growth, the future of Springfield in general here in the state of Illinois?
Well, one of the reasons that I took the position, because obviously I'm a private business person, so I thought it was important for somebody that took this job to be from here, somebody that's committed. I've got 2 businesses in this town. I've been fortunate enough that all my children have moved back to town, so we're committed. Even whether I'm the state representative or not, I'm going to live and die in Springfield. So I think the best part about Springfield is the people and just the community in general. But when I go around, one of the reasons I wanted it is I want to explain to these legislators throughout the state of Illinois that, this is your second home. We need the funds and we need money here to, to develop. So I want to see Springfield grow and prosper and, be a shining capital that it should be. So that's my singular focus in really taking the job. How do we make the 95th District and Springfield in general, a better place to live and work?
Mike, we appreciate the time this morning. This is Beyond the Podium with Representative Mike Coffey.
Thanks for watching. Stick around by subscribing today and don't miss a single video.